Welcome back to an episode of FSi DFS Fantasy Baseball Picks. I'm Smegro 31. We've got a really large slate today, 12 games on Tuesday, so I'm going to get right into it. No weather concerns, so it's going to be great. First game, Kansas City, Toronto. These pitchers just faced each other in a rain game in Kansas City. Now it's in Toronto. The game, I don't even think made it to an official. So just don't look at the box scores to see the last time these two pitched because they couldn't really cook the ball and it was just garbage. I think both will be fine. Riggins is a great price here. Barrios is getting a little too expensive. So I like both pitchers here. And bat wise, I don't know why it says Till. I should see Toronto. I think they'd both be in the leverage box. I think you have decent pitchers here. Just as you look at Reagans and think, oh no, I don't want to take a lefty against this all right-handed Toronto lineup. He's more of a reverse splits pitcher. He tends to pitch better against righties than he does against lefties. So again, if you want to take bats from either one, that's fine in a GPP, but I'm not consider the pitchers there and crossing out the bats for cash. Giants and Red Sox go to Fenway Park. I know the wind's blowing in here 9 miles per hour. Logan Webb, really like him. Ground ball pitcher. Um, and it should be good against this offense. Boston is fifth in strikeouts. So, and Webb's been going deep into games, like 7 innings. So, love Webb here. One of my favorite pitchers. In the medium range. And that's where I might live today, just because I feel pricing is so hard on this slate. There's so many different ways that you can go. Uh, Peralta's probably by far the best pitcher, but and Lopez is up there too. I don't know if I can get to them because there's really nobody cheap that I like. So we'll get to that eventually. But I think Webb is a great place to start, maybe even cash games as your SP1. Chris Well on the other side, not interested in. Giants, I really like here in a great spot, especially the righties against Chris Well tends to be a little bit reverse splitsy also. So Chapman, Soler, Bailey a catcher, and then I'm okay mixing like the lefties in too. Uh Boston, not really interested in here. Again, leverage stack, probably one of the lowest leverage stacks because I think Webb's just going to have a phenomenal game. Cubs and Mets at Mets Stadium here, wind blowing in 10 miles per hour, so it should be a good pitching matchup. Assad and Manea, I think both of them are in play here. Assad's getting a little pricey at 8.4. I mean, the Mets do have some decent power here. Manea, I think like with the Cubs kind of banged up, missing some guys in the lineup currently. Wisdom will probably move up a little bit in the lineup, and Talkman will go down. But like the bottom of the lineup, I think there are some strikeouts there, and Manea's been solid this season, not like exceptional, but it's at least solid. So I think definitely he's in play in the medium range here. And Assad, I think, could be an option too in GPPs. For bats, like with the wind blowing in here, I think in 150 maxes, I don't think I'd play him in 20 maxes or anything under, like if you're mass multi entering. Twins and White Sox. Simeon Wood Richards was 4K. We all played him and got had a great night. He's up to 7K now. I think he's in play here against the White Sox because they're not good. They 24.6% strikeout rate. And so there's some opportunities here. And he went pretty deep in the game. I think he went like 5 or 6. So it's not like he's only going to be like an opener or something, only work like 2 or 3. Soroka on the other side is probably the worst pitcher on the slate, so that's why the Twins are my favorite stack here. There's 4.75 total, might not be enough. I know the wind's blowing in a little bit in Chicago. It's only 6 miles per hour. That's fine, 61 degrees, but love the Twins here. Righties, lefties, don't care. Chicago White Sox bullpen isn't great. I mean, they're not. I think their ERA is like just below 5, and they're not in the top worst ones on the sheet there, but it's still there's some opportunities to put up runs against them also. White Sox on the other side, maybe probably my least favorite cheap stack there, but there's not a ton of upside. But if you do need it to make it work, try to get it up to more expensive pitching and use the White Sox stack, I'm fine with it. Tampa Bay and the Brewers, Tyler Alexander. There's two T. Alexanders on slate. So there's Tyler for Tampa Bay, and then for the Angels, we have, oh, okay, that's gonna be crazy. There's two Tyler Andersons on the slate. Um, so this is the Tampa Bay one. Tampa Bay one, I might be interested in the mid range a little bit, but I think Milwaukee's a really good stack here against a lefty, and then Peralta by far, like Tampa Bay, um, has, even though again they're not on the sheet in like one of the top striking out teams, there are some strikeouts in this lineup, and they just haven't. Ever since like Wander Franco and like some of the other pieces, like they've got some young pieces mixed in with guys have been there for a couple years. So I think this can click, but I think like the Orioles have definitely surpassed them. Like Tampa Bay, like used to have like all the strong pitching, really strong bullpen. I mean, they were contending for World Series a couple years ago, and I don't think that they're like falling short like the White Sox did, who were contending for a World Series a couple years ago. But I just don't think that they're a team that I really fear, and they're a team that I can sometimes pick on. And I think Peralta is a great spot here if you can get up to the 10K. Tampa Bay, I mean, it's a great contrarian stack. If you think Peralta has a day off and like Blancos and Shelton are really cheap, there are some righties there, not really many lefties against them. So maybe a three-man mini stack there in a GPP if you want to, but I think that's really touching Tampa Bay. And then Milwaukee, love them here. I think, for a GPP, the righties here. Trino might lead off, or Contreras. Adamas is Hoskins, great spot. Perkins should move up into the middle lineup. Gary Sanchez is actually against left-handed pitching, but in decent. It should be an all right-handed lineup against Alexander. So pick whoever you want and build your Milwaukee stack, and hopefully they're off to the races. Washington and Texas, Mackenzie Gore has actually been solid this year. He's starting to, and I think he was the key piece that came over with a Soto trade. So it's just been, he's starting to with San Diego. So he's starting to get some traction here. He's pitched well against the Dodgers last time out, but Texas is always a dangerous matchup. So I don't know if I can go there at 8-1, but at GPP, I can consider him if I'm mass multi entering, maybe like 5% or less, but maybe some exposure. John Gray on the other side, a Washington team. I mean, the Gallows on the IL, so there's like one strikeout bat that's out of there. They haven't been horrible, but they haven't been like the death by a thousand cuts, annoying Nat lineup that they were last year. Like Abrams is definitely a very special player. Winker is having a decent season, and Jacob Young at the bottom of the lineup has some speed and power. So there are some nice. Rosario hasn't been bad either. There are some nice pieces here. But I think, if you want to use them in a cheap stack, and if it makes things work to get up to some of the pitching or some of the other bats you want, I'm good with that, but I don't think they're a huge priority. In Texas, I think is probably one of the top GPP stacks here. I'd probably stick to the righties here, but Seager hits well, lefty on lefty. I'd maybe leave out of it. So if I'm stacking, I go like Simeon, Seager, Garcia, Heim, and then Langford um, there, or Wendell or Duran, whoever is like in the sixth or seventh spot. I wouldn't leave. I wouldn't put if Heim's batting fifth. I'd use the sixth or seventh hitter. I wouldn't go all the way down to the eighth one. Although I guess it's a reverse wraparound stack. It's the same principle. You're only skipping 9 to get back to Simeon at 1. So whatever. Texas definitely in play there. Pitching wise, I think, Gray is decent in a cheap range against the Nationals at 7-3, and Gore, like I said, has some maybe some upside, but kind of in a dangerous matchup. Cleveland and Houston, you have two really struggling pitchers here. Carlos Carrasco, who's a shell of what he used to be, and Hunter Brown, who has just, we don't know what's wrong with him this year, but he was like an anointed one. Was supposed to be like Strider was in Atlanta, where you had some veterans a couple years ago there, and he was supposed to come in and just be like the next wave, and it just hasn't happened. And this year he's just really struggling. So I like Cleveland. They're good. They don't have a ton of power, but they're good contact team. So give me some of the lefties here. One of my favorite stacks um, in the top area here, and I mean, J. Ram and Quan are up in the 5K and Naylor, so it's more of it's pretty expensive, but like the middle of this, like Florial and Brennan and Naylor at catcher, like you can go to like the bottom of it and make a really cheap stack for Cleveland. So consider that. And Houston's probably with the 5.2 total is the top stack on the slate here. I'd probably go Tuve. Bregman just doesn't have speed or power anymore, so I'd probably leave him out. Alvarez, Tucker, and then Pena. He's probably not on DK, but they finally are trying to figure out the first base position. Obviously, Abreu is not the answer, so I don't know how. I haven't heard anybody say this yet. So Looper Fido, Joey, has some speed and power coming up from AAA, pretty decent prospect. So if he's added to the player pool, then he's a lefty too that you consider playing. Should be pretty cheap for you. Philly and the Angels, Turnbull and the other Tyler Anderson. Turnbull, I like. He's having a solid season, but at 9-1, I have him over the no interest, but it's more just no interest in cash. I think he's good for GPP, but I don't know if I can play 9K against him. The Angels have him great this year, but Trout has been pretty hot. Adele, I don't know if I've had second. Like I'll probably like Shawnell or somebody will move up there lefty because Adele's great against lefties, but not righty on righty. Maybe Moniak moves up. So, so Turnbull should have a good game. He's pitching much better than he did in Detroit. So, but at 9-1, I don't know if I can pay it on the context of the slate. And Tyler Anderson on the Angels not interested in at all. So Philly's probably my second favorite stack here, especially the righties like Turner, Baum, Real Muto. Again, if you can get to them, like you have to figure out what to do with pitching to get like a stack like that, just because I just don't feel like there's any real cheap options pitching wise that I really like in cash games. And the Angels, I think could, be in a GPP stack, but because Philly's bullpen's been horrible. So, if Turnbull is okay, then Trout, Adele, Ward, Jury, I mean, Hopi, they can put up some runs late in the game. So that's what I'd be banking on if I play a Los Angeles stack. Cincinnati Reds and San Diego Padres. Nick Martinez against Yu Darvish. Not interested in Nick Martinez here. I mean, the Padres have been Jekyll or Hyde. They can go out and smash you, or they can go out and underwhelm. But I'm not paying for Nick Martinez to figure out if that's going to happen or not. And Yu Darvish, I think against the Reds, they have the fourth highest K rate at 26.5. So I think he's definitely in play here. But I think I like Webb and Minea at their price point and their matchups a little bit better. For bat wise, Cincinnati's definitely just going to be like 150 max one for me. And San Diego, I think you can play in some GPPs because they could put it together, but it's been few and far between. So it could win you a tournament. It could be a late night hammer. It could be super low ownership. So always something to consider. Pittsburgh at Oakland. Mitch Keller, Alex Wood. Love Keller here. Wood maybe. I would. No, I don't think I'd consider him here. He just really hasn't gone deep in the games. Really hasn't put up many BK points at all. So, and Pittsburgh can be kind of pesky. So, Pittsburgh bats I think are my third favorite. Like love Minnesota, San Francisco's so solid, especially the righties. But I think Pittsburgh's got to be in consideration here. Because they're all in like the 4K range. Like sometimes they're up in the 5K range, but Reynolds at 4.6 is the most expensive one you have here. You got guys in the 3K range. So and it's a lefty. So I think like there's Pittsburgh stack might be really nice here. And then Oakland on the other side against Keller would just be a leverage thing. I think he's going to be pretty popular with this matchup. So I just stick to the lefties like Butler, Bidet, Brown, um, Toro, Noda if you're going to stack there. Dodgers and Diamondbacks, Knack and Montgomery. Not really interested in each. I mean, Montgomery was a good pitcher last year, but I think he's still trying to find his way back after not being signed and not really spending a lot of time in spring training and stuff. So I don't like either pitcher. Both offenses, I mean, you can take them any single night. So that's why I have them as the second and third favorite stack. It's just with pricing, I just don't know if I get to them. It would have to be them. And then, you can stack Minnesota or Pittsburgh or San Francisco or the White Sox, Washington, like all those ones are mix and match, like the cheap favorite bats from there. You can make it work and get some decent mid-range pitching. That to me feels like more of a GPP, not as much of a cash build. And then we rounded off with Atlanta at Seattle. Very little total in this game, only a 7. But Atlanta's really struggling to put up runs last night, and both pitchers were doing really well, and Seattle struggled also. So Lopez, I think, in a great spot here. Nice 5K savings off of Peralta, and there are definitely some strikeouts in the Seattle lineup. They have risen to number 1 as I updated them today at 28.5% K rate in this. So they are striking out a ton. Uh, so definitely Lopez is a great play here. Castillo on the other side is, I have him as like the lowest of the high pitchers. Could he get a lot of strikeouts against this Brave lineup? Maybe, but Atlanta's been mid-range. Like they don't really strike out a ton. And they do have an offense that's a sleeping giant. So I think 3.64 even against a good pitcher. But Seattle does have one of the best bullpens. So that's why I'm not really high on Atlanta and have them in the 150 max, which you might be shocked when you first saw that. But that's the reasoning, is because Castillo's just decent. It's I mean, they do get the top of the ninth because they do get 9 innings because they are on the road, but they're against one of the best bullpens and a decent pitcher. I just don't think it's a night for Atlanta on a 12-game slate when there's so many more options. So, like I said, Peralta, Keller, Lopez are great options up high. Barrios and Castillos are in consideration, but is the pricing of the matchup I'm a little skeptical on. Webb, Minaya are great. Darvish, Assad, and Gore, I think, can keep in consideration. Reagan's my favorite in the cheap range. I think he's priced a little bit too low, and I feel it's a good matchup against Toronto there. Gray has a decent matchup too against Washington. Woodrich and Anderson for Tampa Bay if you need to take a shot as a dart. There's my fades, and I talked to you about the no interest people I have over there. So Houston's top stack, if you can pay up for them. Philly, same thing. Dodgers, Arizona. I like Cleveland too in the matchup against Brown. Texas, I think if Gore is off, it has and San Diego, either one of them can put things up. I really like Milwaukee there, and the Angels have some potential against a bad bullpen. But this cheap range is golden today. Minnesota, San Francisco, Pittsburgh, really solid. Washington and the White Sox might have some options for you, and the rest would just be leverage plays. So let's look at the Bills, get you on your way for your Tuesday. So, like I said, I'm taking Webb, Keller, Manaea as my SP2 there. If you want to get up to Peralta, I don't hate it. You just have to figure out who you're comfortable as your SP2 there. But give me the Twins, Kirilloff, Julian, and I love these right-handed San Francisco bats, Chapman and Soler and Larnish. And then I'm going to fill in and I was able to make a full San Francisco, Minnesota stack. And again, if you want to take San Francisco out of there and throw in like some of the cheap Pittsburgh bats to make it work to get up to Peralta, that's fine. You could probably use Milwaukee and cash also. They're just a little bit more expensive. I just liked what I got with the Twins, with the San Francisco fill-ins and that pitching combination. So Reagan's is who I'm going to use for my SP1 in GPPs. I might pair him with Wood Richards there from Minnesota, but we'll have to see. But I really like pairing Cleveland, even though the bats are expensive, with Milwaukee. So Sanchez, I mean, if you can get up to Contreras, that's fine. Hoskins, J. Ram, Adames, Kwan, and Perkins. Those Cleveland bats are expensive. So again, if you want to try to get the Peralta or Keller or Lopez there, and you want to throw in Minnesota with Milwaukee, that works, or Pittsburgh with Milwaukee, that works too. That should give you enough to get there. So again, lots of ways to go today. So if you have any questions, put them in the chat below. Hit me up at MegaRower31 on X/Twitter, whatever we call it. I think everybody still refers to it as Twitter, but it's X. Eventually, I hopefully that might we'll figure it out. Anyways, society needs to figure it out. It's not for our podcast here. Anyways, if you want to get more information on FSi DFS, is in the description of the video, so you can go in there and get our pricing packages. And especially weekends are like really cool because there's so many things going on. It's like $6 for a 1-day pass for everything as a VIP member. So got a lot of cool things going on there. And we have UCL championship semifinals today, NBA playoffs, NHL playoffs, MLB. So even today's not a bad day also to get in for $6. And if these videos help you, as always, like us, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and share with your friends. So thanks for watching. Hope you have an amazing Tuesday. Good luck in your contest. I'll see you next time.